Crowhill here, coming to you from the White Oak Tavern in Westerville. Today we review a red ale and ask, why does it seem that so many people in positions of power are perverts? Hey, good evening, Pigweed.
Hello, Crowhill.
All right.
How are you?
I'm all right.
How about some beer and conversation?
Sounds like a great idea. What are we drinking?
This is a red ale from Evolution.
Oh, down in Salisbury.
Yes. And so, what do you think?
Well,
What's on your mind?
I think that I'm curious. Trump has said that he's going to release the JFK information.
Yeah.
He's going to release the UFO information.
All right.
But is he going to release the Jeffrey Epstein information?
I mean, if he's going to do those two, probably will.
I hope so.
But yeah, I mean, speaking of perverts.
Yes.
Yes.
But in the meantime, let's get into this beer. So Evo's a good brewery. I like their stuff.
It's a red ale. You know, red ales aren't. This isn't particularly red, but I guess as far as I know, a red ale you put small amounts of very dark crystal, right? Like a crystal 80 or 120.
Yeah, very little bit of something dark. It's kind of strange why it comes out red. When I think of red ales, I think of Killian's.
Is that still around? I don't know.
You
know what? It was back when beer was the least interesting it could be.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, this is like pre-craft beer.
Yes.
It's like, oh.
Killian's was kind of interesting.
Yes, it was like more interesting than anything else that was going on.
Yes, and I think they got bought by, I thought it was Coors, but somebody bought it, and then I think they changed the recipe. See, either it got less interesting or my beer taste changed. One or the other. But yeah, so what do you think about this one?
Well, I think it's kind of nice. It's got a little maltiness. It's coming in right around 6%. 5.9.
Yeah, I like that. It's just a notch up from, if you're one of these guys who drinks ordinary beer. Yeah. And, don't go out and buy a Bourbon County Stout Imperial
Double IPA or
don't
something
do
like
that.
that.
Get something just a step up, just to see if you like.
Challenge your palate, but just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I remember the first time I had an Arrogant Bastard, I spit it out in the sink. It's like,
what is that?
What is that?
Right.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's good. But you can't just go from Budweiser straight to double IPA.
Yeah. But this would be a good. You're right. That would be a good baby.
This would be a good step up. Yeah. All right. So what are we dealing with this?
I think we're a couple of decent fellows.
I would hope so.
I think we're good citizens. I think we enjoy living in a high trust society. And so you do your part to be trustworthy because, you want to be honest because you want to live in a place where there are honest people. The whole golden rule. Yeah. Right?
Unto others, unto back, rickety, rickety, rickety rack. That's how my sister said that. That's the golden rule.
Now, breaking that, being a bad person, I would feel guilt. And so there's guilt and shame, right? And then also the fear of the shame.
And the fear of consequences, right? Yeah.
But I mean, I think mostly I think I'm doing the right thing because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
But there also is a little bit fear of the consequences. Sure. So to me, the consequences of stealing something far outweighs any benefit. Right. While there are people who, on the other hand, would go, you know what? I'll take my chances on the consequences because, it's worth it. I'll just embezzle from the company and I'll get rich. And if I get caught, get caught.
Right.
Well, what happens when there are no consequences?
Right.
Right. So once you've gotten yourself into a position where you can either be good for goodness sake,
right,
or be bad and indulge with no consequences.
It's like Groundhog Day.
Are you still going to be good?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look what happened to Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. He learned that there were no consequences to his actions. And what happened? Yes. He just did every kind of crazy bad thing he could think of.
Because tomorrow's going to be back to where he started anyway.
Until he got bored of it. Yeah.
Right. So, like I mentioned the embezzlement part. Now the other vice, you would say, is probably sex.
Yeah.
So what if there's no one stopping you from being sexually abusive?
Right.
Now, I'm pretty sure that it's not just the fact that the local government and my wife wouldn't like me taking advantage of young women.
Now, see, here you raise an interesting thing, because to me there's a big difference between being sexually maybe libertine, like, going out and having fun, and being sexually abusive. Like that's a next step.
Right. That's when you get to the sociopath, the psychopath level of not really caring how you affect another person. Yes, the libertine. Right. You're right. You're having affairs and sleeping with women,
but at least she wants to do it
who are
too,
willing
right?
to do it. Yes,
that's right. Yeah, but to the point where you're like forcing somebody, that's a different sort of a thing.
That is a different sort of a thing. So well, let's explore this a little bit.
Well, I guess the thing that jumped out at me about this topic is I was thinking, there are just so many examples of people in positions of power and authority who become creeps. They become perverts of one sort or another. I mean, the thing that is on everybody's mind is the Catholic abuse crisis from a few years ago.
Yeah.
Other religious organizations had the same problem. Jehovah's Witnesses, Southern Baptists, apparently even in some ultra-Orthodox Jewish communities. I mean, it happens all over the place. Schools have a similar kind of problem. Teachers are abusive. Some people say that the abuse in schools is worse than it ever was in the Catholic Church, and there's dispute about those numbers.
Well, I mean, it's in public schools, and actually, you know what's showing up in news items is women and high school boys.
I know, it's so weird.
I've never even heard of that before.
I know.
And now it outnumbers. It's like 5-1.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, what have we done? Jeffrey Epstein.
I didn't know it wasn't happening when I was in high school. I'd be bragging about it.
That's right. Harvey Weinstein, the old
that was a big deal.
Casting couch thing.
Yes. That
and you have to. It's not just him. There's
and that's the whole Hollywood. Yes, the whole shit.
And have you seen the pictures of Oprah like introducing young girls to Harvey Weinstein?
Oh, no,
and then the caption is something like, "When you realize why Oprah is in." Anyway, there are lots of stories about pedophilia in Hollywood. There's problems in the music industry. We have, politicians. Bill Clinton. There's a lot of other politicians we could pick on. Sean Diddy Combs, Larry Nasser, that creep who was like a doctor in charge of a bunch of athletes and abused them. Jerry Sandusky. I mean, it goes on and on and on. We have all these examples of famous people who just behaved outrageously.
Yes. So all right, let's do this one at a time. You already have that proclivity, and the fact that you are sort of disinterested in how you hurt other people actually gives you an advantage in the competitive world of power.
Yeah, so that's option number one, which is you're already a creep. Well, where are you going to get a job?
But your creepiness is in fact beneficial, or almost beneficial to rising through the ranks of power.
Yeah.
In your disregard for the feelings of others.
See, I'm going to take a slight theological detour here because it's a little relevant. But when it comes to the Catholic abuse crisis, I always said that the fact that they only allowed celibate men to become priests, now you've selected a group of men who have either they have some kind of problem with their sexuality.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Or from the positive spin on it is they're willing to give up that for the kingdom of God. And all, you can put the good spin on it, but you're selecting from a group of people. There's going to be too much representation of people who have problems.
Yes. And I agree with that. And I look at it this way. You're an altar boy, right? Or what other roles would you have in the church before you decide to become a priest?
Well, nowadays you could be a deacon first, but
as a young man. Okay, as a young man. So then at age 18, and do you remember when you were 18?
I do.
And if somebody said, you do realize you're going to have to be celibate, and you say, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Now, what's going on in your head?
That seems a little something going on.
Yeah. It seems like, yes. It seems, now, for some people, fine. Some people do that for exactly the right reason.
Yes.
And all, okay, fine. But you're going to attract, disproportionately, you're going to attract people who, they're okay with that for the wrong reason.
Yes.
Yes. So I think the same sort of thing happens where you have somebody who's a little messed up one way or another. Maybe they like little boys, right? Now, where are they going to try to get a job? Teaching in an elementary school?
Right.
So they might try to get a job where they have access to little boys, right? So that's one possibility.
All right. So let's explore the other one.
Okay. So another possibility is you have once a person is in a privileged position.
Yes. Now
it corrupts them.
Yes. So let's just say you're a famous Hollywood person.
Yeah.
Newly famous.
Right.
You're a struggling actor. Boom, you get your big break. Boom, your face is on billboards.
Right.
Now you're buddies with the already famous people.
Yeah.
And the guy puts his arm around your shoulder and says, we're going to go to the club tonight. And then you just walk up to the front of the line. You go, these rules, we don't stand in line.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So
those rules don't apply to
Yes.
us.
Yes. You don't need to make reservations at the fanciest restaurant in town.
Right.
And then that just starts bleeding over into this rules don't apply to us kind of a thing. Yes. And now you're being welcomed into this world and taught that look, no,
we don't do that. I saw an interview.
In fact, sometimes we go to restaurants, we don't even pay the check.
That's right.
Because us being there is
better
advertisement for them and don't even pay it.
Exactly. So I saw this interview with Sharon Stone where she was talking about she was on the set of some show. She's like, mostly naked and all these film cameras are, and she like spills her coffee and then she like goes to start cleaning it up, which any decent person would do.
Like a normal person.
Like a normal person. But then she all of a sudden realizes, oh, no, I don't do that. Yeah. The help does that.
Yes.
I can go around and spill my coffee any place I want.
Yes.
And these other people have to come and clean it up for me.
And so that starts to infect your view of the world and what you can and cannot do.
Yes. And what you can get away with and why. And you start to question, do the rules apply to me?
Do the rules apply to me? And then does that then bleed over into, their hedonistic...
The hedonistic treadmill, it's called. where, you get on this treadmill of like seeking more and more stimulation, which doesn't satisfy, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. But there's also a couple other things to think about. I wonder if you're rich and you're in this position of power, do you get bored? And can boredom lead to this kind of thing where you're just like, I need some stimulation.
Yes,
and you
because before then you're striving, and then the Schopenhauer, into this permanent state of discontent.
Yes.
Because as soon as you've achieved the thing that you are striving for, where you believe happiness lies, it turns out it doesn't, and then what? So what you're saying is, in some cases, perversion.
Right. Yes. And there's the
like
pursuit of novelty.
the most forbidden of things.
Yeah.
For which one, something I haven't tried yet, and two, there are no consequences because I'm in this privileged position.
The pursuit of novelty, the pursuit of thrills, all that kind of stuff. So it kind of goes along with that. And you have the money to do it. Why not? Like, I don't have the money to go out and do these crazy things, but some people do.
All right. Now, so the question is, is a person's an average person's virtue really is it genuine or
exactly
is it just a consequence of your situation?
Yeah, exactly. Just like what Satan said to God in the book of Job.
Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure. He praises you. Well, what happens if you take away all that stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
well, that's what I was thinking. Is like, so is the biblical view of man as depraved really, really true? And if we don't have the guardrails of a moral God and a moral society
and laws,
then is anybody susceptible to go nuts? I mean, I'd like to think, like I started out, like, I'd like to think I'm a good guy because I'm a good guy. But is it? Am I really a good guy just because the circumstances have let themselves.
Yes, and I think there's a lot to that. A lot of times we're good simply because we haven't been given sufficient opportunity to be bad.
Yeah. So how about this? Like I said about a reasonably good guy who now is is now famous and now gets to learn the ropes from the people. What if you're Saddam Hussein's sons and there were no guardrails from the minute you're born?
Right. Yeah. Those guys were apparently, they were pretty bad.
They were really bad. So you've already got the genetic makeup from a psychopath, who slaughtered his way through that. But, he grew up poor. He didn't have all the privilege. So then now you have those genes and nothing holding you back. You could just kill a person at a party. You can rape a woman at her own wedding.
Yeah. not even nothing holding you back. But your father, who you look up to because he's your father, what his history is.
And he's the most powerful man in the whole country. I want to be like Dad.
Yeah, right, yeah. Now, another component of this, there's the we're above the rules kind of thing, but there's also almost a now you're with us kind of a thing. Right. So, once you get into these storied ranks of elitism or whatever the heck it is there sort of he's still acting like a regular person. He needs to learn to act like one of us. He needs to learn to break. It's almost like a hazing thing.
Yes, an initiation.
An initiation into this world that you're now coming into. Oh, sure, everybody else worries about that.
And
you don't worry about this.
Also, you want that person to have a little dirt on them because it seems like there's a lot of that. In fact, it seems like nobody knows how Epstein was so rich.
Yeah.
And it does kind of seem like, well, when you have dirt on all of the richest people in the world, some of that money is going to come your way.
Well, I've heard various theories about it. One theory I heard, which I think is pretty interesting, is that Jeffrey Epstein was part of some CIA operation to get dirt on rich and famous people.
Heard that one? Yeah.
And it seems to make a lot of sense. So you have the idea that perverts and psychopaths are drawn into these positions of high visibility and power to begin with. So you might be selecting for weird people just to start. You have the problem of once they get in, they feel like they're above the rules because they really are.
Yeah.
Just the other day, my son said, "I'll believe in a just justice system when rich people go to jail."
Right.
And I thought, well, fair point.
Right.
There's not a lot of that going on. And then you have this culture that introducing people, bringing them into this culture. There's another possibility, which is everybody's just as perverted as these guys
there
are.
You go.
And every once in a while you hear about the what goes on in trailer parks and the kind of the low end side of perversity.
People without power.
Right. People without money, without power, without fame, with any of that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of nasty stuff going on there, too. So it could just be that there's a certain amount of perversion going on all over the place, and we just notice it among the rich and powerful.
Yes, because that's what makes headlines.
Yes.
Yeah, right. They're not breaking the story at the trailer park.
Yes. Right. Who's going to go interview everybody at the trailer park and find out that these poor kids are getting abused or whatever is going on?
Right. So back to your initial proposal that Trump would release
the Jeffrey Epstein files.
I mean,
why not?
How has it not happened already?
I know.
This is like the juiciest story that any journalist could ever want, and nobody's that interested?
I know.
Why? Because are all the editors of the newspaper?
Are they in on it too?
Oh, have they all been to the island?
This is what breeds conspiracy theories. Is this precisely this kind of thing? Shouldn't this be something that every journalist in the country wants to know about?
Yeah.
I want to know who's on that list. I want to follow up on this. I want to get these stories. But
yes.
They don't.
No, and what's her name? Ghislaine
yeah.
Maxwell. So this was convicted of underage sex trafficking.
Yeah.
To whom?
Right.
There has to be somebody on the other end of that.
You had to traffic from this place to that place, from this person to that person.
For what person? And are there other people there?
And
And nobody's that curious.
Nobody's curious.
And Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself.
So it's a very strange thing. So did all these reporters, like, they started to investigate it, and then the editor got a phone call, and the editor came along and said, "We're not going to pursue that." Yeah. I mean, is that what happens?
I don't know. I can't imagine that this just not being an interesting topic,
right?
And that there's not any.
What's it missing? It's missing. I mean, it has wealth and power and politics and
royalty,
royalty and Hollywood people and sex and
more sex,
islands and airplanes. I mean, what are you missing in this? It's like ideal for a story.
Yes, the podcast I listened to, very interesting about the whole Epstein thing, never got into the rich folk on the island, the rich and powerful people that were on there. It's fascinating, but it just said, rich and powerful people. Rich
and powerful people, unnamed rich and powerful people. Although we do know some of the names. Bill Clinton went there, Bill Gates went there. There's other names that came up. And, Prince Harry, Prince somebody.
Andrew.
Sorry, Harry.
Harry. But, lots of wealthy, rich. And, you know what? It doesn't mean... Well, what went on there? So, I mean, there's no reason that rich people can't get together on an island and have a party.
Exactly.
Good,
just because
that's
you
what I would
there,
do. And you would go hang out with other rich and powerful people. That's
just
fine.
Because you went there doesn't necessarily mean that you did these dastardly things. But dastardly things happen there, and we should find out. Yeah. So I guess my you have anything else to say about it? Because I have one other thing I wanted to go over.
I got a little bit. Go ahead.
So I'm wondering, what's the solution to this? How do you prevent this kind of, the various kinds of abuse and perversion and things that are going on? Obviously, shaming. I'm kind of a big fan of dueling, like if somebody did something to your, honestly, if somebody did something to my daughter, there'd be no duel. I'd just kill them in the middle of the night. Right. But, there's got to be some way for there to be a way to control this kind of thing.
Well, I mean, unless it's like you said, it's part of all of us, right? If you could isolate out the bad apples, but you go, no, we're all bad apples, given the opportunity.
Yes. Yeah, I'm afraid that's the way it really is.
No, just great. I'm going to wrap myself in my poverty is going to be my virtue, and the reason that I am a good citizen, and that we are both good people who are trustworthy, is because
we don't have $1 million.
Because we don't have the opportunity to be a creep with no consequences.
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, there's that saying there, "But for the grace of God, go I." Yeah. I mean, there's probably a lot of truth to that, but there is this idea that don't give me neither wealth or status, because this is what's going to happen. Yeah. You're going to become a creepy person if that happens. So what's the solution? To keep everybody not being wealthy? I mean, that's not reasonable. I mean, there are other kinds of ways that cultures have tried to deal with this problem. One is just to seclude women completely. Now, that's horrible, but it doesn't stop the pedophile problem, right?
No, it increases that. That's why. Yeah, that's why you. Never mind.
Yeah. So you have institutional oversight. There, organizations should have the sense to realize that people with power have these kind of temptations, and there should be rules in place to govern that and keep an eye on things. I mean, that's one of the biggest complaints about the Catholic Church scandal. It's not just that there were creepy priests. I mean, obviously there's creepy priests. Priests are people. Right. There's always creepy somebodies. Any group of people, there's going to be creepy versions of them. But why did the organization cover for it rather than deal with it? Yeah. And that is the big problem. That's the big problem. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to call it here. What do you think?
Yeah.
This is too uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable. It's difficult, and I hate to even think about the fact that if I was rich and powerful, that I would be tempted to do those sort of things. But how do I know?
How would you know?
It's kind of hard to know until you're in that situation.
Right, because you get some, maybe Bill Gates is a perfectly nice guy, and I'm sure he is, who probably would barely get a second date if
if he wasn't rich.
If he wasn't a gazillionaire.
Right.
But he is, and now the world is his oyster.
That's
and
right.
Maybe, well, I don't know what he did, but his wife wasn't happy about it.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, that's
Belinda knows something that we don't know.
That we don't, yeah. Well, maybe we should release the Belinda files.
Yes. All right. Well, I don't know about you creeps, but I'm a good person.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.